Welcome to Beyond the Page, the official podcast of Choice, the magazine of professional coaching, where we bring you amazing insights and in-depth features you won't find anywhere else. I'm your host, Gary Schleifer, and I'm excited to expand your learning as we dive into this book we're going to talk about today and have a chat with these brilliant authors who wrote it and uncover the learnings that they are professing in that book. When you get a chance, join our vibrant community of coaching professionals as we explore groundbreaking ideas, share expert tips and techniques, and make a real difference in our clients' lives. But let's get started. In today's episode, I'm speaking with authors Janet Harvey and Silvia Tassarotti, who are the authors of their new book entitled Regenerative People. A little bit about Janet. She's a pioneering author, speaker, coach, educator, and the CEO of Invite Change, a global leader in human development services, and my friend for over 18 years. With nearly 30 years of experience and more than 12,000 coaching hours, Janet was recognized by Coaches 50 as one of the world's most influential executive coaches. She's guided individuals, teams, and organizations to unlock their potential through the trademarked Generative Wholeness program. Under her leadership, Invite Change has partnered with global brands like Amazon, Microsoft, and Boeing, fostering authentic leadership and sustainable growth. Janet is an ICF Master Certified Coach, former ICF Global President, and thought leader, empowers leaders worldwide to create workplaces where people thrive. For more information, you can go to invitechange.com. Now, a little bit about Silvia Tassarotti. She is an entrepreneur and executive coach at the forefront of regenerative change. As CEO and founder of Coach for Planet Benefit Corporation, she partners with leaders and organizations to create cultures where performance, human development, and sustainability thrive together. Also an ICF Master Certified Coach with more than 2 decades of international corporate experience and work with thousands of clients, she created the first ICF accredited course in regenerative leadership coaching. A past president of ICF Italy and a founding member of For Good Leaders Cooperative and Climate Coaching Alliance Italy, Silvia brings clarity, courage, and systemic vision to leaders navigating complexity and transformation. She is the author of several books and also an international speaker, and of course, co-author with Janet Harvey of the book Regenerative People, which offers a powerful framework for moving from extractive models to renewal, resilience, and long-term value creation. Oh my goodness. Oh, there's no wonder the two of you are here today. Thank you so much for joining me. Wow. And coaching it, I didn't realize there was a coaching program as well. So I'm going to look into that. Perhaps you can let us know about that a little bit later. I have to say to our listeners and viewers, I absolutely loved this book. I was hooked by the very first phrase in the world we are building. Just had me, and I couldn't stop reading it. I'm looking forward to, and to our listeners, I had a pre-read. I have the good fortune of being honored to write a testimonial for the book, so I've pre-read it. So, anticipation for everybody else. Doesn't get to see it until later on, but we'll find out more about that. I get where you guys all came from, but how did you come together to work on this book?
So our friendship actually started in the ICF Foundation, as you
Mm,
know, Janet. So because Janet became the chair and I was on the board. And so I think what really got us together that was 2010. It was really the impact, the social impact that coaching could have in the world. And we build it up to become the gift of coaching program and or award, I think is now called, and the Ignite program, which, it
mm.
was really supporting the SDGs, and the organizations that were working towards that at the time. So impacted millions of people. So I think that our really friendship and partnership in bringing coaching to have a big impact started there. And then, of course, we carried on with the Thought Leadership Institute with the ICF and the Climate Coaching Alliance and the Coach for Planet initiative that then developed into the organization that you can see now,
Mm.
and the book. So I think it's been also a 16 years, journey. Up to you, Gary, if are we getting close? And it's really driven by this dream that I really also got from Sir John Whitmore,
Mm.
that coaching, really we're scratching the surface of the impact that coaching can have in the world. That's really our strong belief. That's how we got into regenerative people. How could coaching really support this amazing transition and challenge that we're facing as human beings?
Mm.
It's been such a joy to get to know Sylvia. And when we picked up the reins of the foundation, we had three of the global leaders in ICF who didn't want to do the foundation. And I went to Magda and said, "Hey, can we break the bylaws a little bit here? I'm happy to do it early." Because I just felt so strongly about what Sylvia's speaking to is Sir John Whitmore. I had been on the stage with him in Turkey, and he was railing because we had just come out of the financial crisis. And he said, "Where were all of you coaches
Mm.
when there were people who knew better, who created such carnage in the world and really worldwide? And we're not out of that yet." It's so interesting to me that here we are in 26 and we haven't learned our lesson. Not all the
Mm.
way, anyway.
Yeah,
And
no
to
kidding.
me, this was part of the inspiration of the book, is that there was a gap. There's a lot of conversation about regeneration, but it's missing that it begins here. It begins with the individual shifting their mindset and then their choices and then the decisions they make with others. And this is not a place that we're spending our investing our time. I guess I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
And coaching is uniquely positioned, I think, to address that. And so we thought, let's write a inspiring book, but at the same time, it's paradigm shifting and it's all about empowering individuals, self leadership and other leadership, and then ultimately society and ecology.
Yeah. Well, no kidding. And thank you for that. You leading right into what I wanted to ask you about. You were talking about how it starts with the individual. Why does personal renewal have to come first?
It has to come first because that's where we need to meet people where they are at. And I think we all experience, burnout and exhaustion to all different levels every day. And everybody is left to their own device to cope, really. Although sometimes organizations do take that, charge in a way, or try
Mm.
to give them tools, but often without keeping, lifting the pressure on people. Because, we all go into meetings where we come out exhausted. We all have conversation with it. We think, oh, no, not again. Um, Whereas we have meetings or conversations or relationships where we come out and uplifted and energized and clearer. So it is a personal change, first of all.
Mhm.
And that's why we needed to. And as we all know, a long journey starts with one first, step. So it has
Right.
to be an internal step before it can be an external change.
Much like you described, Gary, you read the introduction of the book and it was personal for you, the world we are building. And we really want, we have this phrase we say, like, what are you going to do on Tuesday morning? Not just Monday when you're
Yeah.
inspired, but Tuesday morning
Uh,
when you're back to your daily grind. Can you stay connected to even one small act of contribution instead of extraction? I mean, I was looking at the coffee machine in the hotel room this morning and I thought to myself, I wonder if they've gotten recycle figured out here for these coffee buds. And there it was, printed right on the label. I went, right on.
yeah.
But in the past, would I have thought twice about looking at the bloody thing to see if it was
Yeah.
recyclable? I mean, it's a small thing. Many small things is how we made an ocean, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, but deeper into the book, reading through it, I realized you could have called this a sustainability book. Sustainability was mentioned a lot, but you didn't. What's the actual difference between sustainability and regeneration?
So really, in a nutshell, and people that are expert will bear with us because we're not expert, we're facilitator and catalyst. Sustainability is about doing less harm. So it's right, it's really about reducing the impact we're having in our individual life and organizations and in society. And in fact, mitigation and adaptations are the two main fields that are around building sustainability. Regeneration is in a way is a leapfrog to sustainability. It really thinks in a different way. So how could we build processes and organizations and people that are able to actually give back more than they're taking out? So it's a really paradigm shift. That's why, we think starting with people is key.
If you look at the sustainability movement, which has been underway for at least 3 decades, maybe four, actually, if we go way back, uh, it was a destination. We're
Mm,
trying to fundamentally say uh, it's not infinite, the quantity and quality of resources available to living on planet Earth. We must be more sustaining. And it missed the opportunity to say, what do we believe about our part? How are we part cause or agent of what's going on in the world? That step gets skipped over because it's personal. And we've separated personal and business a lot. We want it to be pragmatic, how people think about regeneration, but also to realize it's a way of living, it's a way of being. It's not a thing to do. There will be decisions about things to do, but to come from a place internally that says, I accept responsibility for 7 generations from now that I will never know. We've always talked about coaching as cathedral building. Well, regeneration is as well. To be able to consider the ripple effect of the decision we make right now, recognizing we're part of a very large ecosystem here on planet Earth.
yeah. You touched on something earlier that matches with this part of the conversation, and that's 7 generations. And help our listeners understand how to stay the course when the things that they're not going to see today, well, what the things that they're going to do today, they're not necessarily going to be around to see.
Well, that's where vision comes into play. So you need to have, some generosity also about, building something which is not going to be you or just for you. And it is where the friction with organizations come stronger because people are bound to 3, 6, months results. However, this really speaks to everybody's desire to build something that lasts, beyond their lives. A legacy or, leaving something behind. So there's a deep need, which I think we could, really nurture in order to be more generous in our decisions and not think so short term, but think at least middle, if not longer term. And also, this has some, interesting consequences also around innovation, around, thinking differently about, there's so much in it than just, maybe being only generous, but also being, visionary. I think there's a visionary quality.
Visionary, yeah.
I was telling Silvia yesterday a story about a client of mine in Japan,
Mm.
and she's a CHRO for a pretty large organization. And they have instituted through the government a program for new mothers. The New Mothers Center is available for free for 4 months. And there is a another 16 months that is supported with all organizations for that mother to be working at whatever level she wants. None at all, right? So a job could be held for 2 years, or progressively moving from part-time to full-time. That's an example of seventh generation thinking. Japan's aging population has meant that their commerce is hindered because they don't have a young workforce. And they're realizing that they need to encourage people to have families and to stay in Japan. The ability to anticipate that that means we have to start at the very beginning and support that for the long term, and that that's a good role of government. It's not a socialist thing. It's actually
Yeah.
quite capitalistic. Recognizing that that's a way to give more than we're taking out, and it will live long before the decision makers in government that chose that policy.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to read something from the book again, but it reminds me of the conversation you have of moving from ego to echo or regenerative. But
Mhm.
I want to read this and then give you my first thoughts, and then I'm going to, never mind. Just like I said, in the world we are building, cities breathe, waste disappears, leaders prioritize renewal and stop extraction. Imagine a metropolis that breathes like a forest, buildings draped in vertical gardens that filter the air and cool the streets. Rooftop functions as productive farms or solar canopies, actively sequestering carbon and circulating resources in closed loops. That just gave me such joy, that picture. And then the cynical part of me said, yeah, right. What capitalist leader is going to make the changes to make this happen? And then I'm reading through the book, and you gave case studies and examples of exactly those people who took that step, took that leap without knowing what they were, well, by dreaming what they were jumping into, but not knowing how the impact would be. I could see this in seven generations, but boy, what a massive shift it's going to take now. How do we help leaders not just see this, but embody this?
So there is a research of the World Economic Forum about the future of jobs. And these competencies will be key between now and 2035. So the ability to really, take into account also of natural resources, natural capital, and being able to steward people, natural resources, their own resources and their own sustainability and well-being. Because this will be the difference between failing and being successful also in the business of the future. Because that's we are not looking into the fact that resources are limited, and there is a cost to not looking into that. So we have a technology, we have the resources, financial resources, we have innovation. AI could play a big role if used for the good. I
If the
think,
data centers could be used for good and not
exactly.
deplete
So
from the world.
we need leaders that are courageous. And I agree. I think it's very difficult to change the system where you are in the system. But there are loads of examples, loads of best practices, loads of, um, uh, so in society and in organizations like the ones that we mentioned, the most known is Patagonia, but there's so many others, where you are getting a lot of benefits and you're contributing to regeneration.
Yeah. I loved the conversation of moving from extraction to eco. Did I have that right? Oh, no, to contribution.
Contribution. Yeah.
Right.
Which is eco.
Right.
In some ways, right? We're all part of the cycle. And not to sound too much like Birkenstocks and granola.
Too late. You're from the West Coast.
Actually, my brother was at the very first Earth Day in 1970
Wow.
on his campus at where we grew up in the Midwest in St. Louis. And so I think I've come by this somewhat naturally. Uh, But I think that the idea of contribution, um, many leaders are familiar with steward leadership or
Hmm.
servant leadership. These are really good early seeds of what Sylvia and I are talking about in the book. When you begin to recognize that there's more than me, right? The I
Yeah.
mindset or the I orientation, it's a necessary part of moving, as Sylvia said earlier, the ability to meet people exactly where they are. Okay, so that's where you are. But there is so much more. And this is what coaches do, right? We open up the landscape, wide angle lens view on life. What is it to be inside of this living, breathing planet? And what's our part? These are big questions that coaching is really well suited to help people navigate and ultimately get very pragmatic very quickly to say, what will I do differently tomorrow? Just like I did with my coffee cap to ask
Yeah,
the question.
exactly. Exactly. Well, you bring up a good point, and you talked about this earlier, starting Tuesday morning. So, two parts, answer as you wish. Where does a coach start? What's their first practical step? And then does a leader start who's reading this book and listening to us?
I'll answer for both. I think we are offering few very interesting models for decision making, for managing your energy. There's plenty of tools and more to come in the preview, the books to come. But I'd like to highlight in particular the regenerative people for elements, dimensions that you can use in any conversation of meetings or decision, which is really looking at what you are facing as a living system, not like a mechanistic,
Hmm.
machine and metaphor, which is we normally look at. Start from inside yourself, so get to know more your energy, your drive, your doubts. If you need to pause, look at the systemic impact that you can have or where to tap, and also look at an evolutionary purpose. Look at, okay, so what? What am I building? Where, the long term. So these four dimensions could be really help you navigate practically the coaching session or also, like a decision or as a leader.
Well, one of the things that was so much fun to put together, and really Sylvia led the charge on this. There's 10 core attributes
Right.
of being regenerative. And I think this is where coaches and leaders both begin. And to create your own bit of inventory. How am I being each of these qualities? And in all domains, start with self, go to family, take a look at your work team, take a look at your company. How aligned am I with the mission of the organization? Are we actually living the mission of the organization, or is it just hanging on the wall? And what would be the regenerative way to live into the mission of the organization? So it becomes a different cadence of decision making, taking into account all that is. And this is the big shift from I to we, which is the system level, to all of us, which is the regenerative level.
Yeah. Wow. So there's three levels then now for me. Me, the person, me, the coach, and me, the leader, because I can fit in all three of those, as can many of our listeners and you, the two of you as well.
And four, me, a part of the family.
Right.
However you think about the human family, right? It could be my nuclear family. It could be my ancestry. When you asked about seven generations, I think one of the things we've forgotten is how rich our history is. Wherever you live on the planet, you are living the inheritance of those who came before. So that's what you're seeding. Next
Yeah.
generations will be inheriting how we're being. And, it's very common now today with all of the meta crises going on. Where were you when? What did you when you stepped up?
Yeah.
Okay, this is not a guilt trip. This is not saying that you're a bad leader if you've been extractive. It's how we chose to live, that we
Yeah.
can wake up and say, you know what? Pretty precious, these different forms of capital. Let
Mm,
me be a little more deliberate about the choices I'm making.
mm,
And can I build on that? I think there is a dimension linked to the family, which is a community, and it's critical for regeneration. I think it's critical for us in the more time we're living, where this digital transformation is taking us a bit away from our physical places and physical communities because we got the virtual communities. And regeneration is about becoming an active community member and help places in where you are becoming more regenerative and rebuilding this connection with nature and with your the community you're part of, which I think is and there's so many regeneration of places is one of the strongest field where we have a lot of example together with agriculture, regenerative agriculture.
yeah. Well, I have to say, I'm thankful that I was introduced to this book at this time in my life. I'm coming to realize that this isn't the first time this isn't the beginning of this conversation, just happens to be the beginning of this conversation for me. So I want to thank you both for that. What should I do on Tuesday morning? Oh, it is Tuesday morning. Never mind. No.
Help us get the word out, Gary. Awesome.
Um, well, to that point, Sylvia, Janet, what can people do to find out more about this book? Where do they go? He says laughingly because the two of them are ready to say it.
I'll let
Okay.
Janet answer that one.
Okay.
So this is a link that we set up this year to help us start to get the word out and build community. So you can all write this down. Go dot invitechange.com/regen, REGEN. Go.invitechange.com/regen. Here you will have an opportunity to answer 5 quick questions. We're looking to put 1,000 people through the survey by the end of the year, which means you might get selected for an interview or to be part of a conversation to build book 2 that's coming. We also have workbook coming and an online course. The book is officially going to be out on January 12th. We'll probably have a pre-sale link. It'll show up in that community. So go to go.invitechange.com/regen. And once you're in the system, you'll get an opportunity to read the introduction in chapter 1 right now.
And I guarantee you it will be well worth it. Get yourself a coffee from a recyclable pod, and settle in. You, when one of the words that came up for me after I read this book and was uh, oh my gosh, I forgot the word. A following.
Mm.
It That's not the word either. Oh my gosh, it's been with me for weeks and now I totally forgot the word. A movement.
Sure.
There we go. It
Movement.
Movement.
feels like a movement. And again, I'll say I'm late to the conversation. I get that. No guilt whatsoever. It wasn't my time until now. What are your thoughts about this as a movement? Is that already started? Are we building?
It has already started. It's been around for a while. There are people that dedicated to regeneration, a lot of studying and thinking, but it's still not mainstream. I think that's the key.
Mm,
It's a bit maybe difficult, or now that even sustainability is a bit set aside, it is not so considered as critical. So I think one of the things that we really want to contribute is to make it simple, immediate, and accessible to everybody
Mm.
so that it can become a mainstream. We need it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everything you do to set this up. The book, the survey for your purposes for the next book, etc. The community. I had to quickly write it down so I didn't forget, but it will be in the show notes, and we'll get it from there. So,
Well, we're very grateful, Gary. You caught the dream. And
uh,
as Sylvia said, the ability to envision a different future and begin to build towards it, that's what it means to accept responsibility for being a wholehearted human.
oh, there's one to breathe into. Thank you. Thank you both for bringing this to my
You.
attention. Thank you for allowing me to contribute to your book with a testimonial. And please let me know what else I can do as an individual, a member of the family, a leader, and a coach going forward. Is there anything else you'd like our audience to do as a result of the book and this conversation? I mean, we've given them a lot already. I think they can start there, but any last thoughts?
Think about Tuesday morning.
There we go. Brilliant. That's why you all are master coaches. Caught it, caught it, caught it. I love it. The best way to reach you both is it through that page?
That would be a great way.
Okay.
We get those messages, and you can put our email addresses in the
In the
chat or
show
in the
notes.
show notes. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be great. Oh my gosh. I really have to say thank you. I've been so excited and nervous about today's call. I think because it really, really not just resonated, but landed for me. And I want
Mm.
everybody to take something from this and think about Tuesday morning. So thank you both for joining me today. And let's make this a bestseller.
Yeah, that's
Thank
right.
you.
Happy 200th, Gary.
Thank you.
Yes. And thanks for inviting us.
My pleasure. That's it for this episode of Beyond the Page. For more episodes, subscribe via your favorite podcast app. If you're watching the video and you're not a subscriber to Choice, you can sign up for your free digital issue by scanning the QR code in the top right-hand corner of my screen. If you're driving or on a treadmill or on a bike, please stop, pull over, and go to choice-online.com and click the sign up now button. I'm Gary Schleifer. Enjoy the journey of mastery.